So before we get to this video, if you guys want to check out my feature film Pay CD, you can. It's on Amazon right now. You can check out the digital copy or the Blu-ray. It's got a Blu-ray, yes. You can also check out my link tree down below. Check out all my social medias, my filmography, like my short films and stuff. Always looking to collaborate with other filmmakers, content creators. Always stumble. But I had a chance to watch Steven Soderbergh's new film Presence, which I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to tell you exactly what it's about because I have some pretty big thoughts on this film. A family moves into a suburban house and becomes convinced that they're not alone. That's it. That's all you need to know. But I am going to tell you just a little bit more, just a tiny bit more. Now, this film, if you don't, you're probably going to know what it is going into it, and that's as far as I'm going to go. It's about, you're basically watching a family in a house from the perspective of a ghost. That's it. That's it. That's all I'm telling you. That's all you need to know. And the way that it is presented, I mean, the way that Steven Soderbergh tells this story, it is just magnificent. It is so good. It stars Lucy Liu, Julia Fox, Carolina Liang, Chris Sullivan, which I feel like I've seen Chris Sullivan in something, and Eddie Mayday. Let's see if I've seen anybody in anything. Oh yeah, I've seen Chris Sullivan and stuff. Oh, he's in Guardians of the Galaxy. That's really cool. That's awesome. Let's see what else. Let's see what else these fine folk are in. Like besides Julia Fox, which I mean, she was in Uncut Gems, but and she's not even in it that long. But anyway, yeah. So that's the cast of the film. Guys, go see this. I'm dead serious. Go see this movie. Like, do not waste any time. Like, if it is showing near you, check it out. It is so good. But I'm not going to fill this video up with me just saying how good it is. Let me actually talk about some of the technical elements of the film and kind of my overall thoughts, because I'm not sure if this is, I'm considering this a 2025 film because I think it only had a premiere at Sundance last year. It didn't end up going anywhere else. Now it's having its wide release. We're going to consider it a 2025 film. But if this was considered a 2024 film, I'll be like 100% transparent. This would have been my favorite film of last year by far. This film, anyway, let's talk about it. So without getting into any spoilers, the film itself, when you're watching this entity, well, you're not watching it, the entity is watching the family. It's pretty interesting the way that the camera moves around and such. There was actually a group of people that were laughing next to me every single time the camera would do like a little like jittery motion, which I thought was kind of a little bit sad because, I mean, I thought it was fine. I thought it worked pretty well for the story. But it kind of reminded me a little bit of Zone of Interest, where you're watching the family do things and the camera's just sort of lingering, except with this film, it takes a very, I guess you could say, Gaspar Noé approach, like especially when it comes to Climax, which is a film I recently talked about, where it'll show you these different scenes and like vignettes, and then like it'll cut to black, and then it'll, you know, open back up, and you get to see the rest of the story play out, or the, you know, the rest of the scene, or a different part of the scene, or it's like a jump in time, passage of time, what have you. So yeah, that's sort of the way that it's presented, with this floaty sort of steady cam going around this house, following the characters, and then as there's a little bit of a passage of time, cuts to black, opens back up. So it's very simple the way that it's filmed. Even the Steadicam, it doesn't really do much. Yes, I mean, they do things where they'll like cross in front of a mirror and such, and you can't see, you know, who's on the other end, you know, just because, I mean, it's supposed to be a ghost, you know, and it was just very unique the way that they told this story. When it comes to the performances, now, you have to remember that this isn't a normal type of film, because if you were to watch, and this was actually something that I learned about when I first got into filmmaking. I mean, it's nothing new, but dialogue is presented differently when you're making cuts. So for instance, when you have two people talking, you can always cut to a close-up of one of them, and it makes what they're saying that much more, you know, impactful. And it kind of, not only does it play mind tricks on you as the viewer, but also the way, you know, that the story is told with the camera cuts and the editing and stuff, it can really change your performance, especially whenever somebody's delivering their lines, and say, for instance, they're doing it calmly 1 second and then the next second they're not. It can make for a pretty unique performance. Now, I will say this. When I was watching it, I was like, okay, well, these performances, some of this just feels off. Like, some of this just feels really off. And then you have to remember that it is a floating camera. I mean, it is an entity floating around the house watching these characters. So we're not getting to watch this story from a normal cinematic point of view. We're watching it from the point of view of a ghost. And that's where I'm going to talk about Steven Soderbergh. Steven Soderbergh, I think, is one of the most important filmmakers of our time. I think that when you think of, I've heard Jonathan Glazer be thrown out as, and this guy is literally just used as, like when there's a big filmmaker out there, you usually want to compare them to the last big filmmaker, the filmmaker that inspired a lot, which is Kubrick. And, a lot of people say that about Jonathan Glazer, which I'm not comparing Soderbergh to somebody like Kubrick or any other filmmaker. There's all kinds of indie filmmakers back in the day. I mean, you can look at Francis Ford Coppola, started out indie, Martin Scorsese, but Steven Soderbergh really is pushing his own film narrative. Everything that he does is completely different. Like, he can go from directing Magic Mike to Presence, a film about a ghost going around a house from its point of view, do a film about a virus taking over the world. This man, his range is just, and then Unsane, filming it off of an iPhone, which is one of my favorite films. I just think that, and Sex, Lies, and Videotape, I can go on and on about the dude. Steven Soderbergh is one of my favorite filmmakers working today. I think, and I get crap about this. I probably get more, can't really cuss because of monetization and stuff, but I get a lot of crap because, like, I talk about M. Night Shyamalan and stuff and how much I love M. Night Shyamalan. I don't think I'd get that for loving Steven Soderbergh, but like even M. Night Shyamalan, I think M. Night Shyamalan, while sometimes he pushes the boundaries, like he definitely did in the 90s with his stories, but I do feel like M. Night Shyamalan is onto something. I really think, I know we're talking about M. Night Shyamalan now, but like I feel like M. Night Shyamalan is onto something. And I feel that way about Steven Soderbergh too. I feel like he's onto something. I feel like we have not seen the best film from Steven Soderbergh yet. And that's sort of how I feel about, some other filmmakers out there. But there's some filmmakers that I see and I'm like, okay, we've probably seen your best work. Not going to name those filmmakers, but it is like a majority of them. Like when it comes to directors that I think we've not seen their best work, I do think of somebody like Jonathan Glazer. I think of somebody like Steven Soderbergh, M. Night Shyamalan, Neri Bilge-Ceylan, Andrei Zvyagintsev, stuff like that, because these directors, they really do try to innovate. They try to do something different, whether it be the story itself, the camera, the editing, the different techniques. They all try to innovate in some type of way. And Steven Soderbergh is the definition of innovation. I can't go on anymore about it. I love Steven Soderbergh. And without spoiling anything, before you guys go, check out my Linktree, check out Pasadilla. It would mean the world to me. Check out my stuff. But you guys can go because I'm not going to spoil anything. Just going to give you a mild spoiler from the audience reaction. Towards the end of the film, my audience, I heard some rumblings. I mean, people were there for that ending. And then this one person got up in their seat. It's a good film, guys. Definitely check it out. Do not sleep on Presence. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Take it easy, and I'll see you next time. I'm tired.